You had to take a deep breath.
We're getting ready to talk about the Cage.
Dude. This is a movie that I honestly go back and forth like, is this a good movie?
It's great.
Is it though? Don't get me wrong, the rewatchability of this movie is so surprising. Not even, I wouldn't say surprising, but whenever it's on, I'm like, oh, National Treasure's on. Like, it's like the sweetest, like, comfort food, you know?
It
like,
really is.
You know, like it's
It
on
really...
and you're like, oh, awesome.
And it's like, you automatically have a jump channel to whatever you're watching.
That's right. Like, if you're watching some sort of sporting event, it's like, oh, but National Treasure's on, so during the commercials, we'll watch National Treasure. And it's like, honestly, it's a movie. It was made in 2004. It feels like a movie that should be in the 90s.
Really?
I think so.
I think it could.
I think this is something that would have been like in the prime of Nick Cage, but this is like watching this. This is like remembering like, oh, Cage is awesome sometimes, and this is.
What's funny is you brought it up, and then I started thinking about it. This is Nicolas Cage's most toned down performance.
Oh, in a long time. It was actually quite refreshing, and he does some enormous choices in this, but it's comparatively speaking to a lot of roles that he does. Yeah, he's kind of just normal, and it is refreshing to see that. But I mean, he does some stuff where you're like, oh, there he is. There's the Cage I know and love. But
it's really toned down. I mean, you're talking when he does things, it's kind of like grabbing the water bottle.
Well, oh God, speaking of, you know what's funny? We watched this last night I've seen this like at least 10 times.
Well over for me.
Yeah, for you like this a lot more than I do.
This is something I just throw on.
I know,
and it's on Netflix a lot. And like if I'm working on something or I've got something else going on, I'll throw this on in the background just because.
And then lose track because I'm paying attention the whole time.
Because why not? I mean, I can pick it up wherever and know exactly where I am.
Yeah, that's true.
It's entertaining from beginning to end. What's funny is it outlandish and borderline ridiculous?
Borderline? It's ridiculous. And this is what I was about to bring up. You brought up the whole... There's a moment where he has to read the back of the $100 bill to acquire the time where a shadow will cast... Oh my God. But he uses a water bottle to magnify the image on the back of the $100 bill to see what time it is, right? You lean to me and you're like, oh, this part's flat out ridiculous. He had already stolen the Declaration of Independence.
No, what's ridiculous is the fact
Up until that point, you're like, oh, God, this is crazy. But that moment, you turn to me, you're like, oh, this part's flat out ridiculous.
No, what's ridiculous about it is he knows all this stuff about history, but he doesn't know that piece of history.
No!
Which the average moviegoer probably knows.
What, the daylight savings time?
Yeah. Was it invented?
I thought you were talking about it was ridiculous that he could magnify. I mean, that is ridiculous.
No,
too.
You can magnify using the water. What's ridiculous about that is his action.
Well, see,
and what does he say? He's like, the time on this clock should show.
And
it's like
he has
his exaggerated motion,
and he also has his crazy eyebrows where he's just and it's funny to think that he's supposed to be like a sex symbol.
Yes! I love it. Where she's there like, John Brown.
It's Paul Brown.
Paul Brown. And then the two women look at each other like, ooh.
Oh, that hottie that came in 2 days ago? It's like, it's Nicolas Cage. And you're Diane Kruger and you're gorgeous.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's Nicolas Cage.
But no, what's funny is this movie in the first 45 minutes, it's like really, really ridiculous, and you're like, because he decides to steal the Declaration of Independence and everything, and you're like, this movie's just nuts. But as soon as he finds out there's actually something on the back of the Declaration...
But you're on... Well, I actually jump on board when he's like, the only way to protect it is to steal it. Ben, what are you saying? I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence. And walks away. First of all, there would be armed guards be like, okay, right this way.
And for anybody who's ever been to Washington, D.C. to see the
too.
Declaration of Independence, first of all, they only let so many people in that room at a time. It's like groups of 30 or something like that. There are easily 15 to 20 armed individuals in that room with you.
We went after National Treasure came out. Do you think the two are correlated? We need security.
Some jackass is gonna watch National Treasure and think he's gonna be able to steal it.
That jackass's name, Nicolas Cage. I'm convinced, like, and that's kind of the beauty of Nicolas Cage, is that he is such like an eccentric wild man in real life, that in roles like this you just really buy, like, oh, this guy. It almost seems like, I think Nicolas Cage believes he could do that, you know, and that kind of it goes into the movie of, like, you really become on board. But that was the scene that, I mean, how are you not on board? Where his thinking is, the only way to protect the Declaration of Independence is to steal it.
No, his other option would have just been, because what's his name? Sean Bean's character.
Well, okay, we talked about that. This movie has a lot of moments where you're like, well, if he had just done this, the events of the rest of the movie just wouldn't have played out. Like,
this movie is based on coincidence.
No, it's based on coincidence, and there are hundreds of coincidences throughout the movie. Like, we were watching it, and so many times I'm like, what a massive coincidence.
Yeah.
Where they would be somewhere and the bad guys would show up.
Yeah.
Or think about this. What happens if he, after he's stolen the Declaration, doesn't see Diane Kruger, and he just goes out the front door? He doesn't use his visa. They don't know who stole it. It's like, they would figure out who stole it days later. You know, it would take them a while to try and figure out who had, you know. Mm-hmm. Like, so many things just, and it's kind of the beauty of the movie, is that you just kind of, there's so many coincidences.
All right, I buy it.
Yeah, there's so many coincidences, and it's so ridiculous that at a certain point you're like, I'm just along for the ride. And they provide enough, like, kind of like cool history, and like, just, and it does play in part because it's ridiculous, but you just, all of a sudden, at a certain point, usually you're on board. It's just fun. It's funny. It is ridiculous, and it definitely doesn't take itself seriously. Like, it knows what type of movie it is.
It's just a good time.
It's a fun time. But that comes back to my question: is it a good movie?
No, it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, like, I don't know, like, when I spend more than 50% of this movie going, this is ridiculous.
But you say it with a huge smile on your face.
I know. And, like, last night, I've seen this movie so much, I could have left, or, like, I could have left your apartment early, but I was like, no, like, I'm just gonna stick around for the end, because I gotta see them find the room, and it's
1%.
Yeah, and they got that huge estate and everything, which I leaned to you. I was like, if they offered you 1% of that, would you take it? Or 10% of that, would you take it? And you're like, without a question. I mean, I'd put in all that work to find a treasure that had been lost for hundreds of years. Yeah, I'd do that too.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. I like this
my
movie.
point of the scene where they find the map on the back of the Declaration, I like it because Diane Kruger is not like, she's going to be a hindrance for the whole movie, and then she finds out there's a map, and she's like, oh,
I'm on board too.
Yeah, like, in a map, like, what's great about it is if you put yourself in that situation, and you're like, this is idiotic. You just stole, like, we're going to jail for life. And then there's a map on the back, and you go,
well, this might be going to jail for life for. Because imagine,
but you're honestly in a race against the FBI to find the treasure. Because you know, once you find it, they're going to be like, well,
see, that's another part I found ridiculous. It was still like, well, you still committed a major felony.
Somebody's got to go to jail, man.
Which I actually did love that little bit. And I loved Nicolas Cage he's sitting there.
Harvey Keitel.
Now, Harvey Keitel, you mentioned this last night. He's basically as if the FBI approached the wolf from Pulp Fiction and they were like, we're going to offer you a job. Mm-hmm. Which is, I mean, in the movie it confirms that he's a Freemason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I found that...
You suggesting the wolf was a Freemason?
Yeah. Yeah, I am. There's just so much that happens in this movie that is just...
And Christopher Plummer is the grandfather.
Well, the opening scene, he's only in it for the opening scene. I asked you, I was like, do you think he's the second highest paid actor in this movie? And there's a legitimate chance that he was. But then I was like, well, maybe Harvey Keitel. But, it would not surprise me.
I don't know how Nicolas Cage got paid. I'm not convinced he got paid.
Well, we talked about that too, is that, like, they may have paid him in, like, Bengal tigers. because that's just Nicolas Cage.
And this was before the whole bankruptcy thing, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, he was flying high right now.
But anyway, so what do you give this movie?
Oh.
It's a tough one to grade.
Yeah. See, that's my thing, is that it's in that C+, like B- category for me, but I give it a lower, I give it, like, I think of it giving it a C, because it's like, this isn't, like, a good movie. But then I'm like, I've seen this so many times.
It's a B movie for me because of how much I enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, you can't deny how much fun it is.
It's what going to the movies is about for me. And I wish more movies like this were made. Honestly, and I say that because I feel like superhero movies and like The Fast and the Furious have taken over this action-adventure genre.
But it's not. But they've just focused so much on action, which is a great genre in itself. Like, think about
this has that the adventure.
It has that. When they go down, when they are going down like the staircase, and they're trying to get into the treasure room, and there's like puzzles that they have to solve, and it felt like Indiana Jones. It felt like the Uncharted games. It felt, like it's those old style of like adventure where it's like you're put in a situation that like it's never really happened in history before. Like, never has there ever been somewhere where they're going somewhere and they have to like solve puzzles to get into another room? Yeah. It's like, no, but how fun is that? And to solve these puzzles, you have to know incredible parts of history that you are now like brought your attention to. So you're like, wow, that's fascinating. And then they solve the puzzle. You're like, oh, what's going to be in this room? And then it's just fun. It is. It's just a fun movie. And I wish more movies would kind of go back to that action adventure genre. Like Jumanji did it pretty well recently. The newest one.
And that has nothing to do with history or anything.
No, but it's that
they're on an adventure.
It's an adventure, exactly. It's like we don't know what our next step is going to lead us towards.
And they didn't need some like it's an original. It's an original adventure.
Yeah. Oh, and that's another definite plus about National Treasure. As ridiculous as it is, it was original. Like you would go and watch it and have
the
fun.
Line, I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Well, that's when I'm on board.
Well, I know, but I'm saying that line, like, all of a sudden became really famous when this movie came out.
For good reason.
But it's ridiculous.
It's such a ridiculous line, and it's like when some people, when they think of Nicolas Cage, that's what they think of, is him going, I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence. That's the line he uses and then walks off the scene. Everyone should have had the same reaction that Justin Bartha had, which was like, Ben? Like, what are you talking about? It also doesn't help. Like, Justin Bartha, how long do you think they insinuate he's been working with Nicolas Cage?
I don't know. I always took it as like at least a year or two.
But because he's doing all this, you would think like he would know a pretty good bit about history. And throughout the movie, Nicolas Cage,
obviously an intelligent guy
with like computers and stuff.
Yeah.
But you still would think if you're trying to find treasure, I guess he was just clearly in it for the money.
Yeah.
But there are times they make him out to be a stone cold idiot, and it's like, this guy's not dumb. Mm-hmm. That was another complaint. I was like, he would know certain things, but he was there because the movie knew that a lot of people watching it wouldn't know what they're talking about, so they needed someone to be like, wait, what does that mean? So that Nicolas Cage would be like, well, back in 17-something, Yeah. But I do like this movie. It's like I said,
I like this one, and I like the second one too.
We need a third one. I'm sorry, like the second one, I like the first one more than the second one. Second one is also fucking crazy, but it ends off with the president.
Harris kills in the second.
Oh, I do love Ed Harris, but it ends off with the president saying like, he's talking to Nicolas Cage. He's like, I want to talk to you. What's on page 47 or whatever page it was, and you're like, they're setting up for a third one, and it never has come.
And these movies made a ton of money.
I don't know how much the second one made. I'm
assuming it made a ton.
I remember the first one made a lot, and for good reason, because it's fun. Like that was the line that sold everyone in the trailer was, I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence. They're like, Nick Cage and stealing the Declaration of Independence? Of course. Well, how could we not be on board? But Yeah, I would, if you haven't seen this movie, I'd recommend it.
It's on Netflix. It's its 15th year anniversary.
Yeah, it is.
It's been 15 years.
I don't like when we're doing these anniversary movies. I don't like it because like, oh, I saw this in theaters and I was like old enough to comprehend what was going on. I don't like that.
I was in high school, man.
Well, you know, that makes me feel a little better. All right, well, that's our take on National Treasure.
Watch it again.
Watch it for the 100th time. And if you feel like stealing the decoration, go do it. I'm not saying it'll work out well, but
that's what America's about.
We'd like to see you try.